at Home Mom, and today I'm going to talk about the dumbing down of kids when it comes to history and social studies. And kind of what prompted this was my husband teaches 8th grade U.S. history, and he kind of expressed a couple years ago, why don't kids know some of this stuff? He's like, they're just clueless. And I was like, well, because in elementary school, they're not really taught anything, except for in 5th grade, they get a little bit of U.S. history. And even then, it's brushed very much to the side because it's not a tested subject in 5th grade. So you have to pass the math and reading start in 5th grade in order to advance to the next grade. And testing starts in 3rd grade, so the 2 to 4 weeks before testing starts is your social studies basically is pushed to the back burner or completely eliminated until testing is over, because they need all that extra time to cram in more learning, aka learning how to take a test. So it's not important to schools because it's not tested. Kids just don't really need to know it to pass a test, so why the emphasis on teaching it? And so what I'm going to read is one of part of the TEKS is what Texas has. Formally we don't have Common Core. And so where it says, for kindergarten through grade 12, students build a foundation in history, geography, economics, government, citizenship, culture, science, technology, and society, and social studies skills. The content is appropriate for the grade level course, enables students to understand the importance of patriotism, function in the free enterprise society, and appreciate the basic democratic values of our state and nation as referenced in the Texas Education Code. So the history that it is doing is pretty much just famous people and a few random famous events that may correlate to a holiday like Thanksgiving. They're going to learn about the Pilgrims. And the only world history kids get in elementary school is learning that Europeans that came to colonize America. And I kid you not, I was taught in elementary school that Christopher Columbus set out to prove that the world was really round and not flat when no one believed him, and that's how he accidentally discovered America. That's a bunch of bogus information that I believed until, I don't know, middle school or high school. There was no world history until I was in 10th and 11th grade with geography, world geography and history. So what I knew was thanks to my dad, who would watch history documentaries and stuff with us. So that's the extent of history. Famous people and how they contributed to society and culture, and how we get certain famous holidays. And then your government is really more about indoctrination of obedience to the state. I truly believe that. One of the TEKS in kindergarten is learning the importance of rules for home and I think it says either society or authority. So it's indoctrinated very early on that we are to look at the government as this benevolent creation that we should just obey. And in 2nd grade, kids had to do this thing where they had to be, if I was president, this is what I would do. And kids would do things like, I would help give the poor people money, I would give them food, I would give them housing. That was kind of the gist of it. Because what they start teaching is good citizenship, and a good citizenship is based on the principle of, love your neighbor as yourself. And I think that's great. That's definitely how we should live our lives. But the difference is that there's a difference between doing something out of the goodness of your own heart than forcing your neighbor to pay for something that they totally disagree with because you think it's a good thing. Citizenship is about the collective, not about the individual, because this wants to start the focus on thinking of the needs of everybody. What's best for everybody? And we know what's best for this person is not necessarily best for this person. And that even that whole concept of democracy, of majority rules, okay? And kind of goes from there, even talking about taxes. So I want to share this with you. This was a So like I said, social studies is a freaking joke in elementary school. And so for, I don't know how many years our school did this, but they got these little like newspapers. And this was the extent of sometimes their social studies today was, okay, you're going to read this part of the paper and then you're going to answer these questions. Not always real teaching going on, or it was very limited on even on a time constraint. There was some excellent social studies teachers that I did see, but not very much. So here, look at this one. It says, your family pays for most of the things you need from their own bank account, but they also give money to the government. I don't willingly give my money to the government. I do it because if I don't pay taxes, I go to jail. And who wants that? Okay? The money we give for the government is called a tax, and our elected officials use taxes to pay for things like army. The government pays the salaries of people who supposedly are keeping us safe, who protect the environment. Yeah, right. Okay, and it pays for all these things for, organizations, because yes, who really wants to be funding corporate, for-profit, and even non-for-profit organizations? Planned Parenthood. Taxes, like it says, taxes we send to the government. The government's in charge of 24 different organizations. There's way more than 24 organizations, your alphabet soup agencies. Paid for through taxes. And this last part, the total budget for each year is measured in trillions of dollars. And so we're kind of thought at this age that, okay, well, scrap all that we try to teach kids about the Constitutional Republic and the ideas that our founding fathers had of a limited government, limited taxation, and we kind of throw that out the window because it's like, well, technically we have representation, so it's okay for taxation because we're supposedly represented, and we kind of know that's not really how that works. And I think that's truly why we see so many people pushing for the federal government needs to pay for this. We need to have this for free. We need free college. We need free medical care. We need free this. We need free that. Because there is almost no understanding of where these taxes come from. And I even look back on when I was in college, the first year I was going to get to vote for the 2008 president, and I heard about universal health care. And I was like, that sounds great. Like, that would be great if you don't have to pay for it out of your pocket. Okay, I was 21? How old was I? I can't remember, back in 2008. I guess it was somewhere around, or I guess when he was elected, and it was like 20 or whatever, and I was like, great. And my parents were like, no, it's not. And I'm like, well, why? And they didn't really tell me why so much, other than they said, well, you need to go research it. And I did, and I'm glad I did, because it did change who I was going to vote for. Not that it really mattered in the grand scheme of things, but whatever. It started kind of on that trail of understanding, like, well, that's not how government actually works, and there's way much more to it than that. So yes, even I was fooled. So I kind of understand why we see all this push for free stuff, because look at this thing right here. It says, well, we just give money to the government, and then the government returns and does all this stuff for us. Forget the billions that we send in foreign aid every year to other countries, and all this money that, private interest groups of politicians, their little pet projects that get funded and things like that, that are slipped into bills. So yes, if you definitely want your child to be indoctrinated to respect the government at all costs, and to believe that it's just this benevolent thing that's just going to do wonderful things for you, send them to public school. If you want your child to lack history, send them to public school. Okay? I'm homeschooling because I want my kids to be educated when it comes to history and government, not just indoctrinated. I want my kids to learn ancient history and about China and Africa and all this history that's just out there that kids just don't know. They are so ignorant. And I think we could argue that, well, we're in a modern society, we don't really need to know this information, we can just look it up. But what do we know? History repeats itself. And what do? We do see that constantly. So yes, Are they dumbing kids down? I think so. Leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe.